All right, guys, welcome back to the BNB Professional. We have a very, very, very special episode for you today. This is actually the first interview, John. So, first interview ever. Yeah, I've been on the COVID trip the last 2 weeks. So I had two interviews lined up before you, and I had to cancel them as well. So we rescheduled for a later date. So you're actually going to be the first one ever. So we are making history here on the BNB Professional. I have a very, very special guest. His name is John Bianchi. Am I pronouncing that right? Bianchi,
Yes,
right?
you are.
All right. And he is the Airbnb Data Guy. The Airbnb Data Guy. I've been consuming some of his content on YouTube. He has, well, I'll let him know. I'll let him explain exactly what the course is, but he has a free course on YouTube that is very, very informative. I've been learning a lot, and I think he trumps my. I have my own property analysis mini series, and but John's analysis on properties are just amazing. He has a whole different view on how you actually analyze properties and really to buy them and all that stuff. So just a little bit about John. I'll let him explain his story in a little bit, but he in 2017, he sold a $10 million investment portfolio to start an Airbnb arbitrage business at the age of 24. Within 2 years, he was managing 15 cash flowing Airbnbs in Chicago, Illinois. However, he had created a process of sorting through Airbnb data so well that he could find highly profitable properties anywhere, and then started teaching people his process and have since has become known as the Airbnb Data Guy. Now, he creates reports and short-term rental investors looking to find the most profitable Airbnb location anywhere in the world. Like I said, it's very, very unique how he looks at properties. But I will let him tell you his story because he's going to tell it better than mine. I'm just here reading some words here, but we got the man right in front of us, Airbnb Data Guy. Welcome, John Bianchi.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the intro. That was awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I'm happy you're here, and I'm excited for this first interview ever. So tell us your story, man.
Yeah.
What were you doing before Airbnb? How'd you get started, and how'd you get to where you are now?
Yeah. So honestly, first off, super excited to be your first interviewer ever. This is going to be something
This is
that'll be
dope.
great. Years from now, when your podcast has grown and grown and grown, I'm going to talk about how I was the very first person on this. So I'm super psyched about that.
Yes, that's what's up.
Yeah, it's going to be a good little story.
Yeah.
So, before getting into Airbnb, I was an investor, financial advisor, investor. I got up to $10 million. My business partner had about $90 million. He was teaching me all the ropes, how to do things. And I sort of saw like what my future was going to be. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of in the office, doing the same thing over and over again and doing stuff I really didn't care about. And so I was on a hunt for something that was better. You know what I mean? More fun, more exciting, something that could grow larger, stuff like that, right? And
Nice.
I honestly, my story is pretty much the exact same as everybody else. You heard about Airbnb. I had an additional room in my apartment, and I was like, I'm going to try and rent this out and see what happens, right? And so
Nice.
I did it, and I did it so wrong that the first 2 weeks I actually had to move back in with my family because I had rented out the entire house. Yeah, I didn't want to get a bad review, so I just moved in with my parents for 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah. But I ended up like reading a crazy amount about Airbnb. Like I had what I used to call a Google education. And I learned that there was an actual business that could be made out of this. And so I opened up a couple more homes, then I raised some money. And then at that point I sold my finance company, portion of it. And then
the investment portfolio, just to clear it up, like what were you doing? Like, was it stocks or What type
No,
of investment
it was
was it?
mainly just
Mutual funds?
yeah, mainly just mutual funds
Okay, gotcha.
and yeah, mutual funds and financial planning, right? So the idea of like of how to save on taxes, of like what accounts you should be in, and ensuring that the portfolios are set up properly, creating like a sort of game plan of the mutual funds, like which ones you should be in, which ones you shouldn't over the long run, depending on what age you were,
Okay.
and like just really setting people up for retirement, right? Like that was like the
Right.
main thing that I did.
Okay.
So, you know, when you're doing that, it's different than stocks because stocks you're constantly in and out of like what's the best company to be in. Whereas
Right.
with financial planning, it's always looking like long term. And there's to me, I feel like there's a ton of responsibility when it comes to mutual funds. It's less
Right.
exciting. Like stocks are not as exciting. Or
Yeah.
sorry, mutual funds are not as exciting as stocks.
Mm-hmm.
But you are overseeing someone's almost entire financial future.
Yeah.
Because most
That's
people
big.
give you all of the money that they have and say like set me up for retirement, right? So when I was like 22, 23 and I'd have these 60-year-olds giving me all of their life savings to set up properly,
Right.
it was definitely an interesting scenario to be in.
Yeah.
I'll say for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was doing with that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So and you went to school for this, right?
No,
Or you just how'd you get into
Yeah.
the investment for it? Was like a buddy that was like, hey, come work come work with us, or you just applied and see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So slightly. Probably I got into it probably the exact same way that everybody else does, just very similar to Airbnb. So
Okay.
I was looking to build a business. I knew I wanted to build a business. I never really went to like an actual school. I did this one school
But for the the
Yeah.
investment stuff that you were doing before,
Yeah.
you studied for that, right?
No.
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 Okay, so it was something.
No, yes.
It just like kind of fell on your
Yeah.
lap. The whole investment.
No,
portfolio.
well, no. So when it comes to investments, you don't necessarily need to go to school to be able to become someone like that.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, so you can actually, the way that I got started was through insurance.
Okay. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
I wanted, yeah, so you can, like life insurance is essentially the way that you can get started into it.
Okay.
Honestly, if I look back at it, I would have never done it in a million years.
Yeah.
But it led to so many great things. But you know, when I was being pitched at the age of 21 that I could build up my own business, make, you know, tons and tons of money selling life insurance and eventually get into the investment side of things, that I could go and, you know, do all this great stuff. And I was like, I was sold. You know what I mean? Like I literally got sold.
And you did. And you
package.
did. I mean, you made money, right? You sold
Yeah, like I
$10
really
million investment portfolio.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
So yeah, and I did get to that point where I was overseeing that and taking care of that amount.
Right.
Plus I had the insurance side as well, and it was just, you know, literally like had my own assistant and had my name on the door, had the whole
Oh,
had the whole
shit.
thing going, and just
Nice.
hated it, man.
You hated it. You hated your life.
I didn't hate it just I couldn't picture myself doing that my entire life. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
It was just
Right.
it wasn't me. Right.
Right.
Yeah,
You didn't
like
feel,
I
you didn't feel
remember
yourself.
exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
it took a lot to do that, because if I I was comfortable, let's just say that. Like if it took 3 years to get to that point of
Mm-hmm.
like crawling, you know what I mean, to get to there. And then I finally get there and I'm like, yeah, I don't want it. And I left. I actually tell people all the time that I'm really lucky that I got to there at such a young age, because
Wow.
it usually takes about 10 years to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I got there because of a partnership that I was able to get
Right.
offered.
Wow.
And so because of that partnership, I was able to see what my future was going to be. And I decided not to do it. But if I had probably gotten to that point over a 10-year period, I probably would have just kept going. Right.
Okay. Right.
So yeah, I would say I got really lucky.
So you got lucky. Yeah, you got lucky. You got a nice partnership. You started making money. You're comfortable. Then you start learning about Airbnbs, right? Because you're looking for something, you know, something that's going to call your attention, something that really speaks to you.
Yeah.
So you found Airbnb. Is it the thing that it's now, you know, you feel happier? You feel
Yeah, man. Like, so
that it is your calling now?
Definitely. Like, I'm obsessed
Okay.
with Airbnb. So,
Right.
it's been a journey. Like it's been about 5 years now, coming up on 6 years of just like
Okay.
this Airbnb journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it started gradual though, right? So, I got I was renting out my own extra room. Then I got
Okay.
2 properties.
Okay.
And I'm learning the entire time. It wasn't until like a certain time period where I was like, I think I could probably do this full time. You know what I mean? Where like I realized like I could probably build a real business out of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I raised some money and I went and did that. And it wasn't like an extreme success, and COVID destroyed it, right? So it's not like I'm standing here saying like, I cashed out in 2020 and I'm sitting pretty. Like, no, like I spent
Right.
2 years grinding away, building up a business that got absolutely tanked in 2020, and I got lucky
COVID.
enough.
Right.
Yeah, got lucky enough that someone was willing to buy the contracts, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, so like, however, even with all that being said, I would never change the decision to leave my finance business to come do this ever. Like I without a doubt made the right decision, right? Like
Yes.
I know that for a fact. I literally traveled like all of America, parts of Europe. Like I traveled all over the place. Had amazing experiences. Had so much time freedom. Learned
Wow.
a crazy amount about how to build a business from like nothing to like up to a certain size. I had like 7 employees because I had a bunch of cleaners as well. And like
Oh, wow.
so learned a crazy amount. Got all the experiences that I was looking for. And so there's no way in a million years that I would have gone back to the finance world where I'm just sitting in an office going over people's portfolios. You know what I mean? So, and like even now, I lost the portfolio, but I was able to build up this Airbnb data consulting business, and I've been able to work with, I think I'm at like 200, 300 clients, somewhere in that range that I've
Wow.
like worked with, guided. Over almost 10,000 people have started my first course and like gone through it. Like there's just
Wow.
been so much value that I've been able to give to people from my own experience especially in the data area of Airbnb that
Yeah.
I know for a fact is like helping a bunch of people. So like this journey just keeps going. And like even as of a month and a half ago, I started working as a data analyst for Superhost Labs, which is an investment fund that buys a bunch of properties. We bought 4 last month. And so,
Crazy.
like I get to do that all day now. So like I'm literally consumed in Airbnb and Airbnb data, and it's awesome. Right. So like I made a good decision.
Hence why you're the Airbnb data guy now. You're eating, sleeping, shitting, breathing Airbnb data all day, every day. Now, are you managing properties yourself right now, or just?
No, so not yet. But the goal is to my goal right now is to build up my portfolio again.
Okay.
Now, I did arbitrage and management in the past. And I plan on not doing that in the future. I just want to own the properties. It's going to take a lot longer to I want to purchase properties. It's going to take a lot longer, but it's a different play than the other option, and it works. It's going to work better for where I currently live.
And on that point, because I got some other questions for you right now. We'll get into the data stuff and your what you've come up with the analysis, which is amazing. But we know there's three really strategies to doing Airbnb. It's buying, it's rental arbitrage, and there's management. I agree with you. Like I think buying is the end goal, the best thing to do. What do you agree out of those three that it's buying is where you need to be at, or what do you think is the best three out of those three strategies?
Well, I mean, buying is obviously the best out of the three, but there's disadvantages to buying as well because it takes a lot of capital and it's a lot slower, and there's that factor to it as well. So I kind of have like a standard response to this question because I get it from a lot of like clients as well, and a lot of people, a lot of newbies will ask me this sort of question.
Right.
And the way I like to explain it is that rental arbitrage is without a doubt the worst one that you can do because you take on a ton of liability, you have a lot of money up front, and you don't own anything. However, if you have no experience, rental arbitrage is the way to get into the door. right? The way to get your foot in the door, the way to get the experience, the way to understand how everything works, to build your systems, to like make that stuff happen. And it can still be profitable if you do it right over a long period of time, right? And so like that's rental arbitrage. Now management is like without a doubt the least risky one there is, and honestly, like arguably even better than owning, because it doesn't cost you anything to get the contracts, and you make money from the homes no matter how well they do, right? And so you're constantly making money from them, right?
Yes.
But I think everyone's end goal should really be to be buying properties and building their net worth over the next over the next 10, 20 years, right? So
yes, 100%.
Whenever somebody asks me about all three of these, I always say, start off with rental arbitrage to get the systems in place, to get the understanding of how it goes, and then transition to management and only pick up an arbitrage property if it's an absolute home run, and then continue to build up your cash base so that you can go out and buy properties and take all of your profits from there and just use it to keep buying properties over the years and keep on taking on those management clients for free. And then additionally on top of that, build a cleaning company around all of that to make you even more money. And so that's sort of my standard advice when it comes to what these three different options and how should you do them and which one you should do.
Nice. I'm glad you're my first guest because we're on the same wavelength. Yeah. I always tell the same thing. Well, we talked about it before, like arbitrage. Yeah. To start, I personally, I think it's the riskiest, right? Out of the three.
Yeah, so you had a similar situation as me, right?
I did. Long story short, I got up to 15 properties with arbitrage. Lost it all with COVID in like 3 days, literally. I had 3 months. I had 3 months that I couldn't rent it out, and then I had $25,000 that were due for rent for all these properties. Yeah. And so then I started my management company. So all right, all right, so you're the guy, man. You're the Airbnb data guy. You've kind of figured out a way of doing a property analysis that's a little different from. Well, that's way different from everybody else, right? Because, I mean, even from my perspective as a property manager, I've been doing this for 4 years. Started with a rental arbitrage. Now I'm managing, and I kind of before I even started Airbnb, I started with the I was in real estate. I was doing some wholesaling, I was doing some flips. So you kind of how would I say it, like programmed to look at comparables, right? And like you look within your budget and then you say, okay, well, yeah, how well is this property going to do compared to the other properties around in the area? But you're saying, you're kind of flipping this thing around, right? And you're saying, it's not really not really your budget. Don't start at the budget. Start at what type of property in your area is going to be most profitable, and then go right and look for that type of property, right?
So I do want to jump in and say not necessarily the type. So so
go ahead and explain your whole
methodology.
The methodology, because it's interesting. Like, of course, you can explain it better than I. I can.
So I'll jump in and give the breakdown. So. The way that I would explain it is that most people will, have a budget, and then they'll find a home that meets their budget, and then at that point they'll say, is this going to be a profitable Airbnb, right? Right. And I always say that that's the wrong way to go about it, because yes, you have a budget that you have to work within, but like you can be resourceful and you could figure out a way to expand that budget, bring somebody else in, whatever it may be. But the main issue with it is that you're looking at the property on an individual property level and trying to determine if it's profitable, right? And you got to do that over and over and over and over again until you actually finally find something that might work, right? What I say to do is take it all the way back and go look at the entire market, then figure out where within that market the most money is being made from all the different neighborhoods, and then within those neighborhoods, what unit size is making the most amount of money. And then of that unit size, what is it about those homes that is making the most amount of money, right? So example is like, if I'm looking into Chicago, I'm not just going to go say I have $3,000 for rent. Where can I rent in Chicago? Well, you can rent every single one bedroom in Chicago. You can rent some 4 bedrooms in Chicago, right? Like, don't think about it that way. Instead, go, okay, where are all the different neighborhoods? And you break it all the way down. You go, okay, Lincoln Park actually seems like there's a lot of money being made in Airbnb. Okay, well, what about the 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and 4 bedrooms? And you realize that the 3 bedrooms actually aren't making that much money, but the 4 bedrooms are making a ton of money, right? And it's because they're the largest units. And then you go, okay, so 4 bedrooms in Lincoln Park make a ton of money, but 3 bedrooms don't. Then you go, okay, well, what is it about this 4 bedroom that's actually driving so much revenue for all these other listings that already exist and have been around for a year and already have proven how much money can be made, right? And then you're realizing that the common trend from the homes making $100,000 is that they're pretty large homes. They're good sized places. They've got dining tables. They're well designed. They have a backyard or a patio space of some kind, right? Like they have all of these certain amenities and features. And you go, okay, now I know that if I want to make $100,000 and I have a $3,000 budget, that I should be getting a 4 bedroom within Lincoln Park, and it should have X, Y, Z. And if I can find a property that matches that, then I'm going to cash flow and I'm going to be cash flow positive and I'm going to make money off of this investment. Right?
Wow. Yeah. That's beautiful. And do you have? I think it'll be a good part right now if you because I want to show these people our listeners visually. Because when you showed it to me, it kind of made more sense and it blew my mind when I was looking at it visually. So, because John has really broken it down from like he said, he's looking at the market and then he looks at where in the market can you make the most money, and that just makes more sense, right? Because as a property manager, I'm looking at owners that come to me and they've already spent the money and they've done all these things, and then they kind of hand it over to me and expect me to make them X amount of dollars that they quote unquote expected to make out of this property, but then you look back at the data and I'm like yeah, it's not going to make that much as you think it was going to make, right? And I think if people would start in your way, right? We're kind of flipping it, right? And we're saying, where in my market, specific market, is the people making the most money, and then let me go after that type of property. Let me go with those characteristics. Is it a 4 bedroom? Is it a 5 bedroom? Is it a 6 bedroom? And let's figure out how to buy that property instead of just throwing anything up on Airbnb and thinking that you're gonna get rich off of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really the issue, because most places are better off as annual rentals than they are as Airbnbs, even in popular places like Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful because everybody's getting into Airbnb, and I think it's more important now that you're getting this message out now because of all the changes. And I wanted to ask you what you think about all the changes that's happening in Airbnb and the future of Airbnb and all that. So we'll get into it in a bit. But so I think it's way, way more important now. Your message is more important now. As an industry, we get more precise, more professional, right? More professional in this industry, because we're still new. So this is very important. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah. So what I was explaining before, right, is to take a look at the entire market and then break it down by the different neighborhoods and the different unit sizes. And so I've built this report. This is, my business. This is what I build for people and what I offer to people. But this helps you do exactly what I was just explaining. So what we're looking at right now is Phoenix, Arizona. And on the left-hand side, what you have are all the different zip codes in Phoenix, and they're in order of where the most amount of listings are to where the least amount of listings are, right? And then up here, what you have are the different unit sizes. So a studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, so on and so forth, right? Where these two connect is the average annual revenue for that unit size in that area. So a 1 bedroom in this zip code makes about $28,000 a year as an Airbnb. instantly I have an average of how much is being made there, and it's a general idea if it's going to be profitable or not, right? And so what I explain to people to do is it's literally just a matter of looking for the biggest number, because if as an average, if the number is pretty high, then there's likely going to be homes in that area that are doing even better, right? So as an example here, if you look here, so for 2 bedrooms in this specific zip code, they're making about $34,000 a year, but a 3 bedroom is doing about $90,000 a year, right? So within honestly, under a minute, you can know where most of the profit is being made within a city. And then I teach an entire process about how to understand exactly how to make that amount of money, and how to really go through the data to figure out what drives the revenue, right? Like I was talking about where you need a dining room and it needs to be dressed up nice, or all these different little features that matter, right?
Right.
So this is also a part of the report. What we're looking at right now are just the 4 bedrooms within the this specific zip code, right? So within that zip code I was just showing you, we're looking at just the 4 bedrooms, and it's each row is an Airbnb, and then every column is a different data point. So you can see here is the revenue, this is the Airbnb link, this is number of bedrooms, stuff like that, right? And I've gone through all of this, and I know for a fact that you can make between 100 and 140,000, and that you need all of these features to be able to do that. And I know that this is the zip code here, and where it's red is where you want to be, and where it's yellow is where you want to be with as close as you possibly can to that, right? And so now what I do is I just go to Zillow, and on Zillow I'll add in all of these requirements as the filter options, and I'll make a little circle around here, and then whenever something pops up within this range, within this price range, I know that for a fact it's going to cash flow. I know it's going to be like a 20% cash on cash, right? So then it just becomes a waiting game. You're just sitting there going okay, as soon as the property shows up, and 2 weeks ago, one showed up right here for 500,000. You know what I mean? That met every single one of the requirements. My company, I can't really get it, but the company that I work for, and I apologize if anyone's seen this from Superhost Labs. All my other reports are gone right now, so that's the only one I can access. So I hope they don't get upset with me. But that's the process that we're taking, right, to be able to figure out where to buy all these things. And I'm doing this for them in all of these different locations, all these different cities, so that we have filters set up for a bunch of different cities. So it's literally properties are just showing up on Zillow, and we get an email or a text automatically. And whenever we get that property, it's already met all of our requirements. So it's just a matter of okay, let's put an offer in. You know what I mean? Because we know it's gonna do well. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you want to know another?
No, I want to make an emphasis on this, because this is you blew my mind the first time, but what you just showed now is wow. This is it's a game changer for real. It's a game changer for real, because it's really like cheating, man. And shoot, I'm gonna have to figure out a way. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to poach you from Superhost Labs and get you on my team, because for real, it's really incredible. It's like I said, I think it's like cheating, because now once you have that criteria, you know exactly what you're looking for, dude. You know exactly what you're looking for, and you know that it's gonna make money because the data shows it. The data shows it. So now you're making an informed decision, right?
Exactly. And I got a fun one for you that you'll like, because you do management. So
yes. So
this is my favorite.
Please.
Take that exact same logic, okay? Mm-hmm. It's very, very, very easy to apply that same formula to rental arbitrage, right? Because with rental arbitrage and buying a home, you roughly have the exact same expenses. You just don't have the down payment, right? You're still paying rent, utilities, all that other stuff. So the logic is pretty well the exact same, right? And did you notice how it said I could do between 100 and 140, and so I wanted to buy a house for 500 to 700? That's sort of what I refer to as the 20% rule. if the revenue makes 20% of the home value, then it's going to cash flow with the numbers that we want, right?
Right.
With that
Right.
same sort of logic, it's gonna you can figure out what that would be for rent, right? So
Okay.
if I'm making 100,000, I know I can pay roughly about $4,000 a month in rent, and I'm going to cash flow like $20,000 to $30,000 a year, right? And so
Oh shit.
so then therefore you have this this is actually something that I teach in my course. It's called max rent, right? So if you
Okay.
have this number max rent, then all you have to do is, instead of applying the, I want to buy a house for 700,000, you're just going, I want to rent a house for a max of 4,000. And then
Right.
it's the same game. It's the exact same game. You're just waiting for it to pop up online, right? Now, the reason why I said you're going to love this for management is because you take that same logic and you apply it to management. So you go, okay, I know that if a home shows up online for $4,000 in rent, that if I were to pitch that landlord Airbnb, he would make $10,000 more than the rent I would then make, and I would be able to make the remaining amount, but I don't have to spend anything up front, and he's taking all the risk. So in other words, you can very specifically target landlords that are going to make more money and be able to prove it to them and get them to take all of the risk and buy the furniture, because you're like, you can prove it. And so then they do that. And I've done that twice. Three times that I can think of for sure. I think there might have been another one in there as well. But you essentially are just like, and the best part about that is that after a year of doing it to them, where managing the property, you go, hey, look, I made you $10,000 more than the rent that you were hoping to get, and I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so,
right.
And you don't have a tenant in here that you have to worry about. And that's exactly what happened. I actually oddly enough, it made two of the people, $9,000 more, and the other one didn't make it a full year because of COVID. But
Dude, John, what are you doing to me right now, man? Like, this changes. No, seriously, dude, it changes the game of how, and I mean, you probably see my mind, like,
yeah,
it's just clicking right now, because I'm like, it changes the game on how I want to go about this even the whole management thing, right? Because now, before it's like, yeah. And I wanted to ask you about this, like, because I'm glad you got into this, like, property management and rental arbitrage, and you just laid it out completely, like, beautifully, because, right now I'm doing marketing to just find properties, right? And I have a marketing budget. I'm going out, I'm marketing myself, my property management services. People are calling me, and it's working, and it's great. But I have a kind of an issue as a property manager, right? To kind of weed out what people I want to work with and what type of properties I actually want to take on, right?
Yeah.
Because right now in my management company, I'll take on whatever, really, right? As long as it looks nice, as long as it is in a good area, it's good. But then, 3 months into it, I have, right now we literally have like a 3-month grace period where we're like, after 3 months, we're like, is this actually working out, or is it not? I mean, are we making what we said we were going to make, and all that stuff?
Yeah.
And essentially, like, some of these properties I have to break it to them, right? Like, I have to break them, like, this is not going to work out, or, and if I would have this data up front, right, it's a game changer, because now I can weed out before I even sign on the dotted line. I can say, yeah, this is the type of property I want. This is not the type of property I want. And I can essentially design my own company profit from this data as well. Like, say if I want to make, $1 million a year as a property manager, then I'm going to go for, whatever it is, 10 5 bedrooms or whatever, or whatever it is that the data shows. So it's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's reverse engineering it, right? And Yeah. And, a question that I'd have for you is, like, what is it when you say that it's not working out with the client and you have to get rid of them? Is that because the home itself doesn't bring in enough money, and the portion that you get to keep is just too little?
I mean, it's a bunch of different factors. It's a bunch of different factors. I think the biggest factor is probably the relationship, right? Because we as a management company, we hold high that relationship, that owner property manager relationship, because we want to keep it close knit. We want to end up buying properties. We don't want to have a bunch of property owners that just we just can't deal with, right? So we're trying to keep it small. So I think that's the biggest factor. But also, right? Also is number one, if you don't have that good relationship, then sometimes that it doesn't work. If they're telling you, no, don't rent it at this price, don't rent it at this price. What are you doing here? What are you doing there? And then you have to kind of deal with that personality. But also, usually, when you have that type of dynamic, then you're also not performing, right? My property's not performing. I'm not making enough money,
right.
And then it just doesn't start to make sense. But maybe if it was the other way around and say, okay, well, I know this property is going to perform because it has X, Y, Z, A, B, C, whatever, all that John had told me that it's going to perform, right?
Yeah.
And then I sign. Then I can focus more on like, okay, it's not the property because I know it's going to do good. I know we're doing good. Then maybe it's a system breakdown, or maybe it is just the relationship with the owner. There's a bunch of different factors when it comes to having to let somebody go. But one of the things is that if it's not making money, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, of course, right? It doesn't make sense. Yeah. I just thought of this is off topic a little bit, but it's also on topic. I'm just changing it a little bit. So I thought of another way that I've used this data that has been like extremely beneficial to me, and I think everyone that can take advantage of this opportunity definitely should. Because you're talking about the relationships that you're having and like having to deal with certain people and like them asking you a bunch of questions.
Right.
I feel like that's just the small fish. You know what I mean? Like they should be doing it themselves if they're asking you those many questions. And so how do you find people who are not like that, right? You kind of get one-off lucky with some people, but professionals let professionals work, right?
Right.
So a professional would be another property management company that manages, like 1,000+ properties. A very large company that has a ton of properties are professionals, and they let you do what you do, right? And so I think the best relationship that I ever made was with a property management company, and they had I'm not sure exactly how many, but it was well over 1,000 properties in Chicago. And what I told them, they worked with this other guy to manage some properties, right? And what I asked from this person was, I said, give me your vacancy list, right? So give me a list of every property that you have that is currently sitting vacant. And I'm going to tell you which one makes more money as an Airbnb and which one should be an annual rental. And I literally did this on a portfolio level and went through every single one of them and found the ones that would have been way better as Airbnbs than as the annual rentals, right? And then I used the numbers to be able to prove that to them. And then we made a deal on who buys what for the furniture and getting everything set up and then creating those contracts. And then it's just sort of, you keep that relationship going, so that when things become vacant, you kind of are able to take things on, right? Now, he wanted me to rent a bunch of places and do arbitrage, but I said I didn't want to do that. And so instead, the way I kind of flipped it on him was the vacancy thing, but there were some properties he's like, no, I want you to rent that. And I go, well, give me your underperforming ones. Give me your shitty listings, right? The reason being is because a great example of this is I took on one listing that was like impossible to rent, right? It was a 4-bedroom where 3 of the bedrooms were up top, 1 bedroom was down low, and it had 1 bathroom that was on the main level. So you got 3 people who have to live upstairs, come downstairs, shower, come all the way back up. You got to find 4 people who are okay with living in that sort of setting, and where 2 people would have significantly larger rooms, and the home was super old. And so it was just like one of these places that was really hard to get rented, and then once it was rented, it was really hard to keep it rented, right? Because 4 people are like one guy's gonna break and just be like, I'm not living in this shithole anymore. I'm not living like this anymore, and he's gonna go find something else, right? And then everybody has to do it, and then it's impossible to get another four in there, right?
Right.
And so that place was barely ever booked. So like on a full year basis, they were constantly missing out on this stuff, and we ended up renting it from them. Or sorry, we ended up setting it up as an Airbnb, and it made more money as an Airbnb, and it cash flowed better for him, and it cash flowed great for us, and I didn't have to pay for anything, and like it worked really well, right?
Right.
So I always call those like finding the underperforming properties in a property management company and turn them into Airbnbs, and you can build that on a very large scale level. Yeah.
Dude, that's an amazing idea. I've never even freaking thought of that. That's crazy. That is crazy to think. And no, it's great. It's great. Like I've never actually thought of that. Like you can partner with these bigger companies, and that's.
I know one guy who only partners with those people. He's like he straight up refuses to take anybody else, and he drives a Ferrari. So and he does Airbnb full time. So it's basically just like a joint venture deal that they're doing with this. Exactly.
With this company, right?
Exactly.
And we split the percentage of whatever you're charging the owner.
Think about it from the management company side, where it's like they like you're taking care of the property now. They're only dealing with the big issues, right? You're still bringing in money, which they're then taking a percentage of and giving the rest to the landlord, right? The actual owner of the property, right?
Right.
And it's never going to sit vacant. Right, it's just going to continue on like this for however long you can keep it going for, right? And so it's a win-win for literally everybody.
Yeah. That's interesting. I got to talk to you about that more. So I had a couple other questions, but I know we're getting low on time here. But I really wanted to ask you, from the Airbnb data guy perspective, right? There's a bunch of changes that happened to Airbnb. The category is the biggest thing, right? Categories, the split stays, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really looking like Airbnb's going towards like the more unique routes, the unique experience route, right?
Yep.
Now, from your perspective of looking at this data a different way and looking for the highest performing properties in a market, number one, like, do you see this as like long-term having to only invest in those like really, really high performing properties, and then all the other properties are going to start to die off? Or is it more of like, or would you even like start like, on a different route and say, since we're going so much more unique, like maybe it's not even buying properties, maybe it's like developing unique experiences, like these tiny homes that are coming out, the unique yellow submarine houses, and all these crazy things that are on Airbnb. What's your perspective on that, on the future of where this whole thing is going?
All right, so I'm going to first talk about the fact that the changes that I am seeing with the data in the markets currently, since that has happened, there's been a ton of changes in the markets, then I'm going to talk about the whole idea of developing in those unique states. And just if I don't get back to that, just remind me, because I do have an opinion on that. So with since May of 2022, if you actually look at the data, and I could probably share some of this right now, it's pretty fascinating. I've actually done a presentation. I will be quick because I know we're running out of time. But there are some places that have absolutely blown up. Like the amount of money that they're making is through the roof. And it happened in May of 2022, and it could be because summer's coming around and everyone's going, and so everyone's booking again. But these places are making a ton of money. So New York is the extreme example, but almost every city across the United States right now has increased how much money is being made on a property by property basis, right? So you can see here that what we're seeing is that $90 million was made in New York in June of 2022. In 2021, 40 million was made, right? If we come over here, we can look at the number of listings and see if that's because of there's being more listings, right? But it's actually not. So there were 27,000 listings last year, And now this year there's 31 listings. So barely, not that much of an increase, like maybe 10%, right? But there's been a like 120% or more increase in the amount of revenue. So it's just, it's not even close. And in other words, this market has just been destroying it and blowing up since May of 2022. But then you take a look at the places that have been like thriving during COVID, such as Joshua Tree, Gatlinburg, all these different areas. And if we go do the same thing, there were 1,100 listings in the Q2 of 2021, and then there were 1,391. So it went up by, maybe 10 or 10, 15, 20% in that range.
Right.
But the revenue, there's more listings, right? There's more listings.
Right.
The revenue for this month was 4.8 million, and the revenue for last year was 5 million. 5.4 million. So there's more listings by about 15%, but the revenue has gone down, right?
Oh, wow.
Therefore, people are making less money on a property by property basis. And I'm seeing this trend across all of these different
major markets,
touristy destinations. Right. All the ones that were like blown up during COVID, that's happening across the board. And then all the cities are making a bunch of money. So my theory here is, with all the changes, what's happening, and this is what they were trying to do. This is literally what they said in the video. They want you to be able to discover more locations, right? And so they want people to, not just type in Joshua Tree and go to Joshua Tree. They want them to be able to see all of these really unique and cool places all over that are surrounding the Joshua Tree area, right?
Okay.
And so what's happening, the way I see it is like, there's still the same amount of people that want to go to Joshua Tree, but they're being dispersed further across than just the concentrated area of Joshua Tree. And so due to that, there's less money being made in Joshua Tree, but in a whole, it's probably the exact same, right? If you were to look at the entire region as itself. And it's the same thing in all of these different sort of areas, the Poconos, the Gatlinburgs, the Blue Ridge, like it's the concentrated areas are kind of getting hit. Now, I've talked to people that own homes in those areas, and the ones that have super unique places are still thriving. They're still making a bunch of money. So when I'll transition to the unique sort of stuff here, right?
Right.
I strongly believe that to thrive and win in the Airbnb industry, you have to have the homes that outperform everybody else. And how do you outperform everybody else? You have more amenities and more features and are cooler than everybody else. You have the place that people really want to go to. And so you have to put more into it. In Scottsdale, people are turning their backyards into oases where you literally don't need to leave the backyard, right? Unless you're going to go play golf, then you come back and you stay in the backyard with your group because it has everything that you need, right? And so when you talk about like the oh my God section of the OMG section category on Airbnb and all those crazy unique places, those places are without a doubt going to dominate and continue to dominate because everyone wants to be there. However, you do have to develop those, right?
Right.
And from my understanding, I have never developed anything and actually haven't even purchased anything myself yet. But from my understanding, what I've been told is that when you develop those homes, it's really hard to get your money out because it doesn't comp well when you go to comp and appraise it, right? It doesn't appraise it what it should appraise.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're actually, so if you build a normal, let's say like one bedroom cabin, it's going to appraise, you're going to be able to get your money out. When you build a really unique A-frame or a tree house, it just doesn't appraise like you would think it should because there's no comps for it to compare off of. And so
That's
then
crazy.
And what ends up happening is it's just a bunch of money left in there. So you're going to make less money in that sort of way, but you'll probably make more money on Airbnb. So you have to make the decision of what makes more sense, right?
Yeah, and then you'll just have to make the decision to stay in longer in that property, right? And not think about like selling it in the long term. So just staying for the cash flow. So that's amazing. That's a really freaking good answer, and I appreciate that. And
no problem.
last 2 minutes. I know we're out of time here, but I'm gonna start asking all my interviewees, and you are the first one, John. This last question here, and then we'll get your final thoughts about where we can find you and all that. Cool. If you had to start your Airbnb business from scratch, knowing what you know now, how would you start?
I would start with the smallest possible Airbnb. So I'd start with a 1 bedroom. I would start in a if I was in a city, right? Or if I was close to a city or something along those lines, I would get a 1 bedroom in a city. I would build out all my operations around that one location. I would learn everything that I possibly could. I'd be doing the rental arbitrage model with the 1 bedroom. Spend maybe $5,000 on furniture. Do it right, do the research, everything, and get that one to cash flow properly and learn everything. Then from there, I would be trying to get management contracts, right? I'd be trying my best to get as many management contracts as I possibly could because I have experience. I can go to them and be like, look at this, my Airbnb. This is how well I'm doing. This is how I do things. And I'd be starting to pitch all these other people. I would only pick up the Airbnb, any other arbitrage contracts if it absolutely made sense, right? And I'd make sure to get smart. If I needed to get debt, I'd make sure it'd be smart debt, the cheapest possible interest rate, pay it back as fast as I possibly could. And I would learn everything I possibly could about managing money and managing your cash flow and ensuring that you have really, really strong understanding of your cash flow on that. I read like 5 books on that stuff and it changed everything. So without a doubt, that's something I would have done differently. I would have started my cleaning company earlier as well. And then I would be holding reserves to eventually go out and buy properties. And then that would give me essentially 4 different sort of business models. You'd have the arbitrage management, owning and having the cleaning company. And then I would do it so well that I would start teaching it to other people and make a bunch of money as a guru. So that would be the complete package.
Nice. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. He has the blueprint to making it an Airbnb. And you're hearing it from a professional, man. You really know what you're talking about. The Airbnb Data Guy, John Bianchi. So your last thoughts, man. Where can we find you? What projects are you have going on right now? How can we follow you and keep in touch for anybody who's interested in working with you?
Yeah, so I have an Airbnb data consulting business where I help people understand where the most money is going to be made within any city that they're in, right, across the entire world. So if you're listening from anywhere in the world, I do free consultations. So you can reach out to me and I can show you exactly how we can work together, how I can help you with that. Just email me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Email me at hello@pointanalytics.co. hello@pointanalytics.co. I think, like I said, somewhere around 200 and 300 people I've worked with so far. I have some people who buy multiple reports every single month for their students because they find it to be extremely valuable. I'm improving that software to make it even better and more reliable. I am additionally working to try and buy my own properties, and I definitely want to do that with other people. So I am big on relationships. I like to get to know people really well. I definitely want to stay in contact with you, right? And because I know in the long run I'll be buying properties, and I want to do that with people, and I want to work with people, and so just want to kind of keep that in mind. So once again, you can reach out to me at hello@pointanalytics.co, and we'll hop on a call and go from there.
Perfect. So reach him at John Bianchi at hello@pointanalytics.co. I'll make sure to put that information in the show notes below. Also, for those of you who are listening, I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the episode, but I'm going to be putting this up on YouTube, so you guys can see the full video. John showed a couple his screen, so it's very, very important information that you guys gotta look into. So if you want to see the video, go to our YouTube page, the BNB Professional. That's the channel, and make sure to subscribe and all that. So. John, man, thank you. This was an amazing interview. Maybe we can do this again in the future. I would love to keep talking to you and working with you. Maybe we can do something together for sure. And I need to pick your brain about the whole property management stuff and all that. And because it was really, really interesting. I'm gonna look back at this episode myself. So,
Awesome.
Thanks again, man. And we'll be in touch, man. And the best of luck to you, man.
Thank you too, and I absolutely love that I got to be the first on this channel. So thanks,
it's
man.
history, baby. Awesome. History in the making.
Yeah. Love it. So
yeah,
cool.
Man. All right, dude. So
have a good one.
All right, guys. I'll see you guys. Yeah. Take care. I'll see you guys on the next one on the BNB Professional. Thanks.